What's up, guys? LQ here with the LQ review. Let's talk about Masters of the Universe. Now, to be clear, I saw it opening day, so it's been almost a week since I've seen it, and I've actually just sat on it and kind of thought about it a lot. And um, as someone who is a lifelong fan of the franchise, I've made many videos. It's probably the topic I've made the most videos about is Masters of the Universe. I love it. It was my first fandom. It was something that I just grew up with. I had all the toys. I watched all the cartoons. The Christmas special is still a special that I watch once a year in December. I even love the '87 movie with Dolph Lundgren. Like, I love this franchise. I have continued to collect the toys that they've come out with since, especially the Origins toys. I took a deep dive into that. So I love the franchise. And I was really excited about this movie. And I have to tell you, I loved it. I loved it. I walked out of that movie understanding full well, full well and good that my this was my bias talking. But I thought it was perfect. I thought it was perfect. And I walked out saying to my son, who I watched it with, I said, I thought it was perfect. And I said, and I even told him, I said, I'm probably not the best person to ask because I'm probably being biased on this, but I thought it was perfect. My son really liked it too. And he is 18 and he really liked it a lot. In fact, he said it's his second favorite movie of the year behind Project Hail Mary. So when we were driving to the theater, I told him, I said, there's certain things that I need to see for me to be 100% on board with this film. I told him, I said, we have to see at some point, even if it's just an appearance, we have to see Orko. I told him we have to see Battle Cat. I told him we have to hear the What's Going On song. I told him that the transformation has to be cool. I told him that Skeletor has to be menacing and funny. And I told him that Eternia has to look great. Eternia has to look great. It has to feel like this big, massive alien world. Told him that they have to limit the time that they're on Earth, which I thought they did. And I told him that they have to get the sorceress right, and the sorceress has to turn into the eagle. And there was a couple of things that I told him that I had to see. Oh, I said there had to be a reference to She-Ra. And I'm here to tell you, everything that was on my list happened. Everything that was on my list got delivered. And it was just a fun movie. It was a blast. I loved Nick Galzine, is that how you say it, as He-Man and Adam. Thought he was great. Loved Idris Elba as Man-at-Arms. Thought he just completely embodied the role. And I know some people had a problem with his arc, as in he failed, and then he became a drunk, and then he had a redemption arc. Listen, I have no problem with that. I have no problem with that. Like, I know that in the cartoon he was always portrayed as this stoic individual. I have no problem with one of our characters falling from grace and redeeming himself. The world looked great, and Skeletor, Jared Leto, say what you will about him, but man, he brought it. He brought it. And there was that scene where he kind of goes into He-Man's head, and they they visit various points in his life that I believe on script should never have worked, but it worked great. It worked great. Yeah, I thought the special effects were on point. Some of it was practical. The CGI I thought was really good. There was only a few instances of CGI where I thought that it could have used some polishing. Um, I really didn't have any huge complaints. As someone who's loved He-Man my whole life, loved Masters of the Universe my whole life, I really didn't have any complaints. I have some nitpicks that I'll get to here in a moment, but I didn't have any huge complaints. I really didn't. Um, I thought that the fight scenes were really good, really well choreographed. The fight in Snake Mountain I thought was great. The vehicles, that was another thing I told him. I said there has to be some cool vehicles in it. The vehicles, the what's it called, the Roton, awesome, awesome. Um, the Sky Sled, bringing that into this was great. I thought Camila Mendes as Tila was phenomenal. I remember telling a friend of mine before the movie came out that Tila has to be a great fighter. She is the head of the guard, so she has to be a great fighter. But she also shouldn't be butch. You know, she should be feminine. She should be um, attractive. She should be somebody that is a potential romantic interest for Adam. That should be Tila, but she should also be a great fighter and someone who is extremely competent on the battlefield. That has been that's been the way she's been depicted in every single version of this character. Very competent on the battlefield. And so I have no problem with that. And I remember reading that someone had a problem with the fact that she kind of bullied Adam a little bit, which I don't think she did. I think it was just playful banter. But Tila always kind of messed with Adam. Tila always kind of bullied Adam. Like, I don't know how you can have a problem with something that was very well established in the Filmation cartoons. Um, yeah, guys, I just can't say enough good stuff about this movie. I loved it. I'm sorry. I know that some people didn't, and I somehow, some way, I know that there's some Masters of the Universe, longtime Masters of the Universe fans like me that didn't like it. I don't know how. It's all subjective. If you didn't like it, man, that sucks. I wish you did, but it's fine. You know, it's all subjective. But I don't see how, as a longtime Motu fan, I just don't get it. I loved it. It had every single thing that I wanted in it. Um, I do have some nitpicks. So nitpick number one, I thought Alison Brie was extremely underutilized as Evil Lynn, and maybe even slightly miscast. I don't know if it was a miscast or if it was just some decisions that they made with the character, but I feel like they could have done more with that character. And I think that if they would have honed in a tone on Evil Lynn a little bit better, I think that Alison Brie would have been fine. There were moments where Evil Lynn was a comedic character. There were moments where she was this abused, tortured female sidekick to Skeletor, where you know I think that you want to feel a little empathy for her, but then she shows these expressions on her face where she enjoyed it. Maybe she enjoyed it a little bit, which is a weird thing to put into the movie. Yeah, I think tonally they were in too many places with Evil Lynn. But I love Alison Brie, and I think she can do anything. So I think that some of it is just the writing of the character and some of the decisions that Travis Knight made in regards to this character. Um, it was a funny movie. I laughed several times, but there were a lot of jokes that didn't land. And it's not a comedy, you know, it's a fantasy adventure movie. And you know, the biggest thing that a comedy has to do is make you laugh. Everything else can be secondary, but it has to make you laugh. This isn't a comedy. It's fantasy adventure, therefore it doesn't necessarily have to make you laugh. There were jokes in there that made me laugh. But there was enough jokes in there that didn't land that it was noticeable. So there was that, and there's also some humor that I felt it was misplaced. I felt that some of the humor was just it felt out of place in this movie. Um, I think that one joke about Fisto is fine and funny. You start getting into four, five, six jokes about Fisto making the same joke, it just stops being funny. And you know, there was a joke made about Ram Man in the final battle that I just didn't think it was necessary, and it felt out of place in this movie. Um, Man, that's about it. It was a little bit too long. It was a little bit too long. I feel like they could have cut out some of the Earth stuff. And make no mistake, I feel like I mean, I have no problem with the story with him going to Earth when he was a kid. And I have no problem with part of the story taking place on Earth. None whatsoever. But the vast majority of it has to take place on Eternia. And that was the case here. So really, no harm, no foul. But I feel like they could have trimmed the Earth stuff down a little bit more anyways. Um, Especially with the friend. Why do we need to know that his friend is into romantic movie? I don't get that, but whatever. Um, these are all nitpicks, and overall, I loved it. I loved Masters of the Universe, and I'm gonna go see it again, and I'm gonna buy it when it comes out, and I just loved it. I'm a Masters of the Universe fan who fell in love with this movie, and I can't wait to watch it again. So that's my take on it. What do you think of Masters of the Universe? Let me know in the comments down below. While you're down there commenting, make sure that you subscribe to my channel. And until next time, we'll see you guys later.